ultimately I found myself really excited by the challenge of trying to like really unfold and paint a portrait of a real committed interracial relationship over real time in some way.
I know you have been wanting to work on Kindred or adapt Kindred for many moons now.
Mhm.
How did the stars align? What made this the right time? And what angle did you like? What drove the angle that you took with it?
I mean, who knows why the stars ever align, right? I think in some funny ways, would I have loved this to happen 6 years ago? Yes. But in some ways, this feels like the right time because Octavia Butler herself has kind of mainstreamed in this really profound way. And I think people are more primed and more sophisticated viewers now of the show, which I'm super thrilled about just because for so long, I think super fans felt so lonely in the world. And now it's like, yeah, finally where she's getting her due. I really wanted to make sure, honoring the fact that this like iconic book is from the 70s, I really wanted to make sure that the show didn't feel like a museum piece or something. Like I really wanted it to feel like really like it was sitting in our laps as an audience and that as viewers, we had some kind of skin in the game. So there was this decision I made sort of as an homage to what she did, which is write in 1979, a story set in 1976. I wanted to make a story set in 2016, 40 years later. And that necessitated like updating a ton of things. And every other kind of change in that world comes out of that initial choice, right? And part of it was like, I had a hard time imagining like a young woman of color in 2016 kind of putting up with a lot of like the Kevin energy you're getting in the book. And it led to a lot of interesting conversation. There were a lot of drafts where they were still married, but ultimately I found myself really excited by the challenge of trying to like really unfold and paint a portrait of a real committed interracial relationship over real time in some way, and to really explore like all the warts and all the hard conversations, all the great conversations. And by the end, I think the dream is that, we do have a series about a married couple. Like, can we really get these guys married over the course of a series? That's kind of the challenge. So
I love that. I think I also see how it feeds on that energy of like, for him to have just met her and been like, yes, I'm on this journey with you, as opposed to like already be married. And you're like, well, you better be.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's true. It makes Kevin's choice his choice, which I think is kind of interesting and sort of is what sort of being in a relationship is about. Like you commit. It's called a commitment, and there's real commitment happening, definitely in this first season.
Now, Dana is, of course, the center of the narrative, and she has a heavy weight on her shoulders in terms of carrying the series and in terms of what she's literally going through. So what was it about Mallory that really spoke to you, that really said, you know what? She's Dana. I have to have her.
Yeah, I keep getting asked this question. It's like hard to describe because a star is a star, and they're a star for a reason. And one of those reasons, or many reasons, but then one of those reasons is that she's just like a singular force. Like there's no one out there who looks like Mallory, acts like Mallory, has the emotional depth of Mallory. She has like a real pure heart. She's an incredibly hard worker. And I just felt like, the kind of iconic Octavia Butler heroine is that. She's like completely unique in herself, kind of a loner, immensely gifted, and I just felt an echo of all those qualities in Mallory from literally the very first audition she did, which was like her in her dark apartment in the middle of COVID. You know what I mean? So, I think there was, before she came along, there was so much agita and anxiety about like, are we going to find this iconic Dana? And then after we met Mallory, it was like, no question. It was wild. So, I feel very fortunate to like even just be witnessing her at the beginning of what's obviously going to be like a gigantic career. It's like amazing.
Yeah. You've also worked on Watchmen and Outer Range, which I feel like both kind of have these like echoing these themes of either racial tensions or just like the family, ties and bonds told through the sci-fi lens. Is that A, something that just like speaks to you? And B, did you take anything from those projects for Kindred?
That's so funny. Ironically enough, I've been developing Kindred for as long as I was working on those projects, and I'm sure that like the deep kind of dive I was doing into Octavia's work into Kindred was something I brought into those rooms, honestly. But I do think like my like love for literature and all things began with genre. Like I was like a Goosebumps kid. I read Stephen King far too early. There is something very appealing about that world of like speculative imagination. But as I've gotten older, I've like really I also love a family drama. I love a family soap, and when those things kind of, combine for me, it's like the absolute best of all possible worlds,
Yeah.
It's just like, that's just my sweet spot, I guess. And hopefully everyone else's too.
It is mine too. So I'm here for it. Thank you. You. Now you talked about, like getting them married over the course of the series. So how long of a series do you envision? How much further beyond the scope of the novel do you think that you could go?
Well, I mean, it's so funny. I think of it less as us outrunning the novel, as like seeing how much we could expand and enrich in the novel, so that by the end of the series, you do feel the full novel. And as you can tell, a lot of it's been about like blowing up. There's certain characters in our show who are like one sentence in the book, but I'm like, I just think that there's so many rooms to play in this house. And I just want to like explore every room in the house, basically, for as long as FX will let us. So please watch the show.
I hope that is a very, very long time. Because I'm especially very excited by the Olivia and Dana dynamic.
Very cool.
Which I think there's lots of room to explore there. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Such a pleasure.
You too. Have a great day.
Happy holidays.